Hey there YouTube, my name's Robbie and you are watching Robbie Rigs. Now for today's build we are going to be making an LED panel light. Now the light that we're going to be using today is this Westgate light. This is going to be a recessed LED. Give you a little sneak peek here what it looks like. Yeah. Right. So all the materials that I'm going to be using for this build have been sourced from Dollar Tree.
Okay guys, just prior to this I had forgotten to mention that I'd purchased the LED light for $2 at Goodwill. It was new and still in the box, but that's where I got it from. Everything else that I'm using here, including the tools, have been purchased from the Dollar Tree. So, I want you to sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of this video.
They're just $1 a piece, low threshold of entry, and let's just get into the parts. So for this build you're going to need 4 pieces of foam corbel. Is what I have here. Now you'll notice I have different colors. Only thing that's important is that you have one piece of white, because this is going to act as your faceplate as well as your reflector. Next up we have masking tape. We also have a box cutter. Do yourself a favor, put a fresh blade on this because it will still work, but clean edges is really satisfying. For the next step here we have contact paper. You need some sort of ruler or measuring stick. For this one I'm using a ball level, and yes, I did get this from Dollar Tree. A little bit of super glue. And the final 2 pieces here are really going to finish out the aesthetics. Oddly enough, this is going to be a white tablecloth from Dollar Tree, as well as these corner bumpers that you put on tables. Generally if you have a toddler, you might even have some of these knocking around in your drawer. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the build. All right, and here we go. So first thing is first, go ahead and get our 2 first tools here. It's going to be a pencil and a razor. So what we will do first is we're going to take the width of the ruler from the very edge, and we're just going to trace that. So put your fingers along the back side here, making sure that we're flush. And let's just go ahead and make a mark all the way down. Let's readjust ourselves. Back to our point. Finish that mark. Fine. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we want to measure diagonally across. Now from point to point. So this is where we'll meet. Okay. So what I did is I got a thumbtack. See right there? Okay. So what I'm going to do with this is put this at the very corner here. Let me see if I can bring that up and show it to you. All right. Anyway, what we're trying to do here is take the edge. So we're trying to connect this end to this end. So what I'm doing, I'm going to look right down this sight here, all the way across. And then we're going to go from the opposite end here. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to put our edge right where that pin was. See? And then I'm going to take it across with this line. And we're going to call that good enough. Carefully across, take it in the center, match up where this side and this side intersect. Okay. So, difficult to see, but we now have a square line and then one diagonal here. Now, all we have to do is do the exact same thing from this corner. So, what I'm going to do, put my head down here, and like a viewfinder. Okay, now we go straight into cutting. So, one thing that I suggest, go through angles that are comfortable for you. So, you can use this quarter line if you want. I'm just going to take this all the way across. So, when you adjust your depth here, only adjust it so far out so that you can keep it nice and tight. So here we're going to go from right here at the edge and go directly across. So now we know our cuts are through. What we're going to do is now on all these edges that go around. Now we cut these all the way through for a reason, but what we need to do now is take along these edges and score, and that way we'll be able to actually flip these back and forth. So here we go. Now, putting gentle pressure, what we measured with, lifting that up. And get a purchase with your finger on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. Again, putting firm pressure down on our cut edge. Huh? Okay, so now what we're going to do is cut a square in the center. Now I should have done this first, but we're going to go ahead and get back to this now. So this is really simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 inch this way, and I'm going to go 3 inches this way. So we're going to get our pencil, making sure that we look down from the top. We're going to make this 2 inches. So make this flat, the edge of the 2. Okay, and then we're going to take it this way, and then we're going to make this one 3 inches wide. So again, we take it, try to make sure she's squared up here. So stop at the 3. So, an easy thing for you to do now is make you some straight lines. Here to here. From here to here. And then we'll go straight down. And then straight down. This is going to make us a square. Okay. And then we just cut this out. Now, this is why I am using a glass table. So, away. So, and that's taken care of. That's good enough. Now, she's not perfect. She's obviously not there, but it's good. Now, welcome back to a different view. So, after you've got this cut up, this is what you should see. Now, the beautiful thing about this is it doesn't have to be beautiful. So, this is what we're dealing with here as far as our LED light goes. It is super simple, as it has these little springs here, springlet things, that are designed to hold tension to a ceiling. So if you had drywall here and here, it's going to hold that spring that way and make it flush. Well, we don't have drywall. So what we're going to do is we're going to employ a few methods to make this work for us. So let's flip this over. Don't worry about this part yet. Okay? So what we're going to do, find our orientation here. And then what I liked was I flipped these little wings right here on the edge, like so. And then we have our other parts that are coming in. Now all we need is some rigidity, because so now what we're looking at is we're looking to add some structural integrity to this, because this floppy, no good. And this floppy, no good. Well, we measured these so we could be sure, and these would have in contact with this, and this would have in contact with this. So far, we're looking good. Okay, so next up on our build, we need to take care of this thing. Now, so you can see what we have here, if you open this door, you'll see our wiring that we have. So we have a white wire, a green wire, and a black wire. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention in this build is that you will need to find yourself a 3-pronged cable like so. Now, the one that I ended up using was an old computer cable, and I cut off that end, and these colors matched exactly this. I'm assuming that's just a universal wiring colors. So, no fuss, no muss, a little bit of electrical tape. I forgot to leave that out. Anyway, so what I need to do is, I know that I'm not going to want this thing flopping around. So if I can find a way to secure this in here, would be ideal, would it not? Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a little maker's trick. So for this, we're going to need our masking tape and our super glue. There we go. So this is simple enough. Take our masking tape. And we layer it up like so. Now, none of this is going to be seen, so all of it will be out of sight. Now, we have a nicely masked area here. And what we're going to do is take the back side of this, not the side that we need to open, but the back side, and we're going to glue that down. So, we're going to find a nice flat area. So now, what we do is get right on with this. So here we are. I have the back side of this mast as well as this. And this is where the super glue comes in. So you take a small application. There's one like so. Take it over here. There's one like so. Recap. And then we blow a little bit. So, now being very careful not to make more of a mess for ourselves. Just give it all you've got. We're going to touch these together. Okay? So, put a little downward pressure here. Now, I had never tried this prior to creating this video, and I was really happy how it turned out. So we're just going to leave some pressure on there. Moment of truth. We are adhesed. See? And we're good. That's not going anywhere. So now what we've done is made this one chunk. Now we're looking good. Now, going back to our piece of foam core board. Now that this is manageable, what we're going to do is we're going to take these little flaps, pull them up, and put them in here so we can start to try to make this thing a bit more rigid. Look at that. All right. Okay, so for final fit up here, what I'm doing, as you might be able to see, I'm trying to take this and get it as level as we can for now, because this is essentially going to be the structure that the rest of this is built upon. So what we need to do is take this piece of board and we're going to slice it downwards like this. So we want this to be 13 inches wide. So I have my measuring stick here. Now I'm going to find 13 on it here, look directly down, and there at the end, make this mark. Now why am I making this mark? So I can go on this end, put it flush, draw back. Same thing over here. Bring it over, make it flush, and draw back. Now we have ourselves a straight line, and we can go back with our blade. Now, you'll probably notice that I'm using a glass table. This has made it to where I, at least for this particular one, I haven't needed a cutting board or any type of being worried about slicing through. It's all gone. So if you do have a glass table that doesn't scratch easily, I highly suggest it. Okay, so now, so now since this is the first time I've done this, let's check the fit up. Now we have this here. I should be able to take this on the edge and that will meet directly in the center here. So let's move on to the next one. Again, we're going to go ahead and do the same method. Literally the only reason I'm showing you this again is so I can get better at doing this on camera and work with the angles. Tippity-doo-dah, just like that. Now we find that edge, take our box knife, just like that. There we go. What do you say we go for another test fit? Now we have our two end pieces. Now, ideally, these are going to sandwich up like so. So I took a quick break, looked over what I already had, and man, those are some angles. Anyways, I wanted to give you a first-person view of what I'm seeing and show you what direction we're going to go here. Okay, all right, so I have the piece, and what I've ended up doing is after I made that cut, I realized they were quite janky. So I took them down by an inch. So instead of 13 inches, they're just 2 1-foot pieces of foam core. So but what we're going for here is we want to make kind of a pyramid out of this, leaving the top flat. We'll go ahead, use some of our scraps, place a piece right in there, and then we'll get on with the rest. Okay, so now that we're back, let's go ahead and take these two out of the way. These are our 2 12-inch foam core board slats. Let's put that on the side here, and we're going to find a home for this. All right, so you got to remember, we're kind of making this up as we go along. So, to my eye, we need something like a 2.5-inch topper that's going to connect those 2 pieces that are coming up like so. So, let's go ahead and do that. Measure off 2.5 inches here. All right. Now that we have that, I want to use a different method that we have. We use the flat factory side of one of the foam core boards that we've got, and just go ahead and align all these marks that you already made to that 2.5-inch mark that you're going for, and this will act as your yardstick or ruler. So now we've done that, we'll put the scrap away, get our box blade, which is carelessly thrown on my couch, and I want to try to get right above this and do it to where you can see me going along this line, but right here in the seam, just to show you what happened on that opposite side. Oop. There you go. You see that little jagged tear that we got there? So, to get past that, all we're going to do, flip it over from this side, opposite of where the jagged edge started. There, see? Now we got that. And that's the piece that we're looking for. So, let's put some pieces back into play here. All right. Now, in general, this is what we're looking for here. We're taking our piece. Now, we've looked down this direction here, down the top. And we're making sure our area is flat. So I'm eyeballing it here. You really can't see, so there's no point in me telling you. But I'm eyeballing it, make sure it looks mostly flat. There's no warble that we're going to see in here. And then we're going to take these 2 pieces, the 2 12-inch pieces that we have, and we're going to put those on the end here. And we're just really just going to set it up and see how this rough fit goes. Ooh, that's terrible. Okay. See how that rough fit goes. And again, it's called rough fit because it's going to look rough. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to put a roof on this house. Now what we got to decide is what is our order of operations going to be. Now I want to take a second to think about that and come to you with my answer. Okay, so I've decided that my next thing that I need to do here, I want to go ahead and try out a method that, well, I'm just going to try it out. So what I've done, I have our 2 pieces here. This is going to be our little roof, and just so I don't get my orientation messed up of where I start and end, I went ahead and put little 1s down here on this end, so I know that this is the orientation that I'm working with. or starting out at the very least. So something that I want to try is I'm going to flip this over, and essentially what I want to do is chamfer all of the edges down. And so where these are going to meet and sandwich up like so, I would like to have a chamfered edge here that can meet more fleshly with this one. And I think the way that I'm going to be able to accomplish this is, make sure I have the right one up. So, it's basically taking a point, there we go, taking a point just so far from the edge and just doing that in repetition. I'm going to put the blade where I can see the end of it, just outside of my end mark that I want to be at the top, and I'm going to make sure this inside of the blade stays on that inside edge, giving me a bevel, if you will. So let's go ahead and see how this works. I don't know if I have, yeah, I have one more piece. Really rather not mess up on these, so I'm going to try to do this the first time right in front of YouTube, God, and everybody. Goodness gracious. Okay. So, take a point. Make sure the edge is out from the other side. And maintain that distance that you start off with from the edge as well as possible throughout your cut. Now she's going to get wonky and wobbly, and it's okay, because believe it or not, you're not going to be seeing any of this by the end of the build, but the more uniform you can keep it, the better. Well, basically the easier you're going to be making your life going forward. With razor blades, smooth motions, very firm. Until they go away from me, that is, but it does not have to be perfect. Do try to maintain the order as best you can, though. So now, if I can get you an angle on that, you'll see my chipped edges are both chamfered in. So when I put my pieces up together, it should butt up very nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to all these. I'm not going to make you go through this whole thing, and we'll see if this actually turns out or not. Okay, so now we have our bevels. So they all have this look here. I'll have this beveled edge. There you go. So what we're going to do now, I believe, is go ahead and butt these up. And I'm going to run a line of masking tape right down the center here. So I will take this side here, matching the bevels, and okay. All right. Okay. Now let's see what we have here. So we have 3 pieces matched together. Now let's see how this houses over the edges. Okay. I call that pretty darn good. Now, we're pretty close here around all edges. Let me see if I can pick this up without damaging it and show you what we're looking like. Well, maybe not. No. There to go kind of on the inside there. Alright, move on. Okay, so now what you're seeing here, then put it to the side. There is the inside view. There's that. Now, one thing you'll notice I did here, I went ahead and buttered it up, and I put a single notch right here just to give me some relief to let this power cord come out of the bottom. Now, one thing that we can do is to run this out, tie a knot right here, and that way if this gets pulled on, it's not going to do any damage by pulling too much on that, but rather this knot is going to pull against the body before it has a chance to pull away from this. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and put a knot in here. This is going to give us some strain relief, again, like I say. So when this gets pulled out past the point, it doesn't pull on the internals at all. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to layer this over so we can get our general orientation, what we're going to be. And then I'm going to pull this second half off of the table, and I'm going to go ahead and slowly start masking all of these edges closed, starting with the two end ones here. And here we go. Well, I was going to go ahead and pause that, but I figure I might as well give you a little bit of a view of what it is that I'm doing over here. So you're going to find the masking tape and run a simple bead. Now, once it starts coming together like this, this is when I feel like the build starts to speed up. Now, at this point, I haven't shown you on camera, but I know that this light already works. So if what you're going for is literally just to throw together, get some light splashed on a wall kind of results, then you're already there. This in the shape that it's in, minus the back plates that I'm putting on here, I've already tested this once prior, and she puts out some light. You really don't have to do anything fancy. This is mainly just so we can have our cake and eat it too, because if you're gonna do it yourself, you may as well give her all the bells and whistles that she can carry. So essentially anything that you see here on the outside, or if anything happens to look a little bit jank on the inside, you're not going to see much of any of it. But any extra time and attention that you put into detail will definitely pay dividends. You can see how these rough cuts are slowly turning into nice, smooth edges. See, now both sides are matching up nicely here. We got this little floating top, which works well for me. All right. See, so this is the beauty. You can see where we're starting to separate here a little bit. This is the beauty of putting that tape on the inside first. And that way, like me, you're doing this by yourself, it's like having another set of hands on the inside. It's giving me some gentle guidance here, so take it like so. Now, before you go wild, consider this that step that you see on other YouTube videos when they do woodworking, and you see them, they always have those little paint brushes, and they brush the piece. Brush each piece, let them dry a little bit, contact where you're going. I love how, I know I'm going to say his name a bunch, but I love how Adam Savage always shines a light on those little things. Alright, see, now, get a nice smooth seam there. Just like that. We have ourselves A large portion of our panel light completed. Now you start to see the beauty of this, because I can set it up, I can set it down, I can set it on the table. This is the ultimate ring light. All right, that is nice. All right, give me another second and we will see what the next step should be. Okay, now believe it or not, I think that was the hard part. So let's give you a 360 view here, best we can. So now, got all the sides. Front, there's your side angle into her there. Now you can see she's not completely squared up, but we're not worried about that. So for the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to get the fourth piece of foam cooler that I told you that you'd be needing in the beginning of this video. Now, again, anything past this point, really not all that necessary. But for the aesthetic touch, we're going to go ahead and go all the way. So, that was a good peel. That was a good peel. All right. Let's get you in frame. There we go. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to get the trusty pencil. I probably didn't mention at the beginning either, did I? And we're literally going to trace this shape and cut it out. So let's find the best angle to film out here. All right, so the important part that I want you to pay attention to is I'm trying to make every effort to make as few cuts and as few modifications to my existing material as possible. So one thing that I'm going to do is this leading edge here. These are identical pieces when it comes to width. There's a little boat out there in the front, but if we get the corners in line as they should be, so corner to corner, corner to corner, don't worry about any fluff that lays over there. We're going to come around from the back side here and do a simple trace. Come around over here, all the lines over, simple trace again. And again, make everything as simple on yourself as humanly possible. That way you can get as much enjoyment out of these projects as humanly possible. So, again here, oops, pop that off the tool. We're going to use our factory edges, just like we have been this whole time, to help us out. So, measuring corner to corner. And remember, once we have that, we're not worrying about if this face is bowed out a little bit. It's not what we'll get. As nice a trace as possible, which leaves us with this right here. Now, this isn't a perfect cut. And that's exactly what we're trying to capture here. So, you take our knife, you adjust it, and then, again, I'm going to use my edge here. Now, if you look back in the video, where I'm doing this the first time to that first front piece, I messed that cut up at least 2 or 3 times. I know, because I went back to make sure that it looked good, but something I'm going to try with this now is these blades tend to bend. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to bend it to that edge, and that way our cut is going flush down. And we have one matching piece here. Now, is it square? Nope, 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 nope. It's okay though. So let's go on to our next piece. And we have another piece. Okay, so I've found the orientation of what we're working with here. And I'm going to take this end, like so, and I'm going to find out how it busts up. That's exactly so. Again, use your flat surfaces, everything that you can to the best of your abilities. Now at this point you might find that you have some areas that are a little proud. That is the beauty of the foam core. They're all closed up on that side. Now we gotta worry about this guy here. So again, let's see if I can do this one upside down, showing you what I just saw there. So put this piece here, put it up as nicely as we can. Remember, use your factory edges. Don't need to beat a dead more split. That is important. Although that looks, no, definitely got a canter to it. So. All right, let's go ahead and do this in real time. Bad boy open here. Now I did a mock-up of the first half of this build, and truth be told, we're going to see how this finishes out together, because right now this is all just a concept. Interesting. I want to show you something here. That way, if you do decide to do this, you don't run into the same pitfalls as me. So this is a very different material than this one that I picked up. Now, will they work the same? I do not know. This one actually feels a little bit thicker, but I don't know if you can tell. It's almost got some stripes on it. I don't know if that's just an in-person thing. Huh. Okay. So for the purposes of the rest of this, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. Nope. So, this is the one that I used from a mock-up, and I wanted to get everything new, so I could show you, oh come on, so I could show you in real time what I'm doing, and show you that it's nothing to be worried about. Now, that's still the goal here, but this is the kind of thing that comes along whenever you're making your own. The idea is simple enough. What we're going to do, we're going to take this shape and just proud, we're going to cut around it. And I might break rank and actually use some scissors depending on how this does. So let's go do it. And we put it away. So there we are. And we have our surface. We are back. Okay. Now, truth be told, I made some mistakes on cutting that front half. Mistakes don't matter that much with this build. Now, this one part in particular, though, isn't necessarily the same, because this material is so super thin, and this masking tape is so grabby that you're not going to be able to pull this off and make it look good. So, having learned that from my trial run, my goal now is to go ahead and just tack this down. So to keep this tight, I'm really just putting just a tiny bit of pressure from the back side. I'm pulling on the cloth on the back side and I'm pushing in with my thumbs just to put some gentle pressure on the front. I'm going to do the same at the side, but not quite as much. Again, I don't want to make any tearing or bunching, so this is all just real gentle pressure. I'm not going to make you endure me doing the other side, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we've got some gentle tension on that, let's take a look together and see the reveal. There we go. Now she's cooperating. So there's our front. And what I'm going to do is now we're going to go from the other side. And I think, so we can maintain what we tried to start with the gentle tension. If I start at the bottom here, thinking I can... If you do have to remove these, remember, heed my warning, and you want to remove the masking tape rather than, remove the masking tape from the foam board rather than putting the masking tape from the plastic sheet. That is not going to work. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is do each side exactly the same way, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, there's side one. I should have just waited, but I got impatient because I'm so happy how this is looking so far. Alright, we're back. Alright guys. Now, I know it's hard, tacky for me to seem impressed with myself, but I'm kind of impressed with myself. In fact, I was going to go back and smooth this all out. In fact, no, you know what, that's what I do. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now let's go ahead and take a second, enjoy what we have here, and I believe it is time for contact paper. Now, admittedly, this is what I already had. So would I have picked this to put on this? Maybe not. I mean, this is more enjoyable inside of a cabinet than on the side of something. But the thing is, they make this in a bunch of colors at other places, and I know Dollar Tree has different colors as well. It's just what we have, so that's what we're going to work with. So let's go ahead and try to make this as easy on ourselves as possible. And I want to take this from the very edge, and the thing that makes this nice is we're going to use the factory edges on this, so we're not going to have to cut anything except for these little ruffled edges that you'll see the end of how to actually cut those. So the idea is we're going to take these from edge to edge and put it on the surface, glue it down. We're literally going to flip it over, do the exact same thing on this side, and obviously we have to do the end caps. Now, which comes first? I'm thinking to get a clean cut out of this, I should probably do the sides. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so first things first, I did a rough fit up, and we're going to need every bit of this, if not more than what we have. So we're going to be clever and sacrifice a bit of aesthetics, and we're going to go ahead and try to do a unique wrap job on this where we can hopefully have our cake and eat it too. I cannot tell you how nice it has been to work on this glass table. everything cuts so nicely. Okay. So now we have a nice clean factory edge on here, and I'm gonna open it up. And let's go ahead, while we're at it, let's do this side here as well. So now we have two clean edges. So let's do a little mock-up here. Truth time. I should have got two of these. I'm dealing with a bit less than I was hoping for. Probably about a foot less than I think. So here's what I'm going to do. Right here, I'm going to use my first knuckle, and I believe that if I put that much on there, that's going to give me more than enough coverage over the masking tape on these lips that are on the side here. So, different vantage point here. See, it only goes so far on the side, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the first finger's worth, and that way I can go ahead and fold that lip over and do that. And I'm going to actually show you how I intend on doing this on the other side as well. So, pretty simple. What we're going to do, get your first finger, get you measured up, make sure you're roughly where you're going to be and even. And then on the opposite side, go ahead, again, make sure you're laying right, whatnot. I'm going to see where my finger's at there, right there on that little white part of the pebble. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little mark there. There we go. And again, I'm just going to get up here. If you have your end flush, like so, then you can be reasonably confident that you are straight. Now, precision work, you may want to find a different solution. This, again, is not precision work. Not for me. We're just having fun. Being creative and trying our darndest to stay inspired. Okay, so we're going to move this over to the bench, put our piece back, and check it out. There we are. Now another challenging part of this is going to be, there it is, this. And I don't want to deprive you. But let's see if we can do a satisfying feel on this. Oh, in one go. Okay, so be warned, this is extremely sticky. Let's hope it stays that way. We're going to put it on the piece. So what I'm doing now is I'm eyeballing it on both sides. And I actually have the rare benefit of having a forward view from the other side to make sure that these match up. And I'm just trying to make sure that they're roughly going to be the same equal distance here, because I'm trying to maximize my use out of this. So what I'm going to do, eyeball where I'm at, my eye on that spot, bring this over, let it gently kind of lay over here. I'm going to check our spacing, make sure that we got that width all the way over. And I'm going to start on one side because there's no reason not to. Now, you can be extra meticulous and try to get all these air bubbles out, or you can do what I'm going to do and go back behind this and pop those air bubbles with that nice sharp blade that we put on at the beginning of the fill. So now we have an end and the whole top here covered. So let's work on the side that we have the best chance to make look pretty. That's how much I have. So don't know what my best move is, but I think what I'm going to do is find out here. We're roughly the same on both sides, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find what that measures out to be. Looks right to my eyeball in it here. We're about 5 inches. So I'm thinking I want to cut some 5-inch strips. I'm going to cut 4 of those because we're going to use whatever we have left of this to do some trim work around this bottom edge and see if we can't hide some of that. So here we go. We're going to use the same 1-finger method here. And it's going to work for us because we're just doing it to this piece. And that is also going to give us a level of uniformity on the edge. So, let's get into it. Are you ready for another satisfying feel? So, I wonder. Here you go. Of course. Okay, so get down here nice and close because what I want to do is put the leading edge, once I get my stitching on it, on the top edge of this. I don't want to see it on the front, but I also like to give it a bit of the image of actually having a somewhat legitimate wrap from a distance if you were a person that needed glasses and not wearing them. So, you tell me, does that bother you aesthetically? Even if you're that kind of person that doesn't like things to, that one tile that's off a little bit, does that bother you? Now, I tell you what, this bothers me more, but even that, I'm having a hard time being mad at it. So. Okay guys, this is our final piece. I think if I cut this directly down the center, I will have just what I need to make this. So this is just under 3 inches wide. So we're gonna go, I'm gonna make the mark right at just, oh my gosh, just under 1.5 mark here. And are they exact? No, they're not. They're not bad. Put the bad boys on. Okay guys, here's the last step for you here. Again, completely unnecessary, but we are on to the corner bumpers. Now, I don't know how this is going to work, but I didn't know how any of this is going to work before we started, and I think we should continue down this path. So these are going to be placed on the corners here, and this is just going to give us a little bit of extra resistance if you feel like it's necessary. So it comes with these little, well, you can't even see if the divider's on there, but maybe a little bit there. These little double-sided tapes here. So let's try our hand at seeing how that's going to work. Well, I guess that's a good problem to have. My initial worry was that this was not going to want to stick and that I'd have to scrap this part, but you know, to be honest, I don't really care for how these look against the white now that I'm, goodness gracious, now that I'm actually dealing with it, but I think I'm gonna kick myself if I don't end up doing this, so let's give it the old college try. Awesome. Okay. You don't want to see that 4 times through, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this portion, and we'll show you when we're done. All right, guys. So, use case scenarios. What do I think this would be helpful for? Well, the general shape, you have to admit, is very similar to what you'd find on a stage with a PA speaker. So I think this would be ideal if you were to put them between the bank of speakers, just to give you a little extra lighting. Another thing, the one that I'm most excited about and plan on doing at a later time, is hanging this up much like you would a picture on the wall. This is light enough to where if you were to attach a string and connect it with a thumbtack, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to pin this up wherever you want. With that being said, if you took a third one, you could then make this adjustable. Now, you'll have to use your imagination here, but the way I'm thinking, if the wall was here, and I strung this up, then if I put this closer to the ceiling, it's going to give me a soft wash on what, at least in my area, is generally a white ceiling. Again, another way, you can do the same thing, placing it down. But if you wanted to adjust the back, you could make it to where it's flat against the wall. Or if you wanted to bring it all the way up and pin it to the ceiling, you could go ahead and have it up in a way just to give you a nice washing light. So, I'm very pleased with how this turned out, and I want to thank you for sitting all the way through my first video. It's been something else. I didn't expect it to take this long. The content's only going to get better, and thank you for sticking around with me here. So, Robbie Riggs out, and remember, stay inspired.